When I tell you this whole situation between Marquez, Trish, and Ken has turned into something way deeper than anyone expected, I mean it. The drama that started as just another messy breakup has now reached a point where jail time is on the table, literally. And this time, the judge overseeing their case is not playing games with any of them. Every single one of these people, Marquez, Trish, and Ken, is walking on thin ice, and it seems like the judge is ready to lock somebody up if they don't start following the rules. So, here's what's going down. Marquez and Trish were in the middle of their divorce not too long ago, and part of the final divorce decree clearly said that Ken, Trish's boyfriend, was supposed to move out of her house by August 25th. That's what the judge ordered. It wasn't a suggestion. It wasn't a maybe. It was a direct court order. But here we are in October, and word on the street is that Ken is still living there. Allegedly, he never left. Now, let's just sit with that for a second. Because when the court tells you something in writing, you don't get to play dumb. The moment that order was issued, everyone involved was supposed to make sure it was followed. But if reports are true, Trish didn't do that and Ken didn't move out. So, the big question is, who's really to blame here? Is it Ken for staying when he shouldn't have, or is it Trish for letting him? According to everything being said online, Marquez has had enough of the back and forth. After hearing that Ken was still living in the house, he took matters into his own hands and wrote a handwritten letter to the judge on September 15th. That letter was basically a motion for contempt of court, meaning Marquez accused Trish of breaking the court's ruling. He said she violated the order because she was still allowing Ken to live there even though the judge had told her to make sure he was gone by August 25th. Now, that's a serious claim. Contempt of court isn't a joke. It means you disrespected the court by ignoring a direct order. And that can land somebody in jail real quick. Marquez even claims he has photographic and video evidence proving Ken is still staying at Trish's house overnight. Let's talk about that because this part right here is wild. How did Marquez get that evidence? Because if Ken is staying at Trish's place, it's not like Marquez could just roll up at 2 a.m. knocking on the door asking to come inside. That would have ended with the police being called, no question. So the only way he could have gotten that evidence is through someone else, and the only people who would have been in that house besides Trish and Ken are the children. That's where this gets messy. It sounds like Marquez might have gotten the photos or videos from the kids. Maybe he asked them questions like, "Is Ken still staying over there?" or "Who's in the house when I'm not around?" And maybe they slipped up and said too much. Because you know how kids are, they don't always realize how much they're revealing when they talk. So maybe they mentioned Ken being there, or maybe they even took a quick picture or video. Either way, it seems like that's how Marquez claims to have proof. But the judge, from what's being said, is not one to play around. This judge has already made it clear that if anyone comes into his courtroom lying or making false claims, there will be consequences. He reportedly told them straight up that if Marquez comes to court saying he has proof but doesn't actually have it, then he'll be the one going to jail. That's right, the judge said, if you're going to accuse someone, you better come with receipts, because otherwise, you'll be the one behind bars. So basically, everyone in this situation is under pressure. If Trish is lying and Ken really did stay past the date, she could go to jail. But if Marquez is lying and doesn't have the proof he claims, he could go to jail too. And this is exactly what the judge meant when he said he's not playing with any of them. He's holding all of them accountable, no excuses, no drama, just straight consequences. Now, think about what that means for Trish. She's the one whose home is in question. The order said she's not allowed to have her boyfriend living with her. So even if Ken stayed there by his own choice, the responsibility still falls on Trish because it's her home. She was supposed to make sure that order was followed. And if she didn't, she's the one the judge is going to look at. And that's exactly what's being said, that if it turns out Ken was still living there, Trish could be sentenced to 185 days in jail and fined $100. That's half a year behind bars, all because she didn't make sure Ken left when the court told her to. And let's be honest, that's a major consequence for something that could have been avoided. The truth is, this whole thing could have been over and done with. If Trish had just followed the order, told Ken to move out, and kept her distance from all the drama, she wouldn't even be in this mess right now. But instead, it looks like she's been trying to play smart, maybe thinking no one would notice, or that Marquez wouldn't do anything about it. But she underestimated him and the judge. Marquez has made it clear that he's not backing down. If he believes she broke that order, he's going to make sure the court knows about it. He even included messages and posts from Ken as part of his evidence, saying Ken had made false claims online about losing parental rights, which only made things worse. The judge is not about to play with people spreading lies when there's an official court order in place. This whole thing exposes how bad it's gotten between these three. There's no trust left. There's no peace. Everyone's just waiting for the other person to slip up. Trish doesn't like Marquez, Marquez doesn't like Trish or Ken, and Ken doesn't like Marquez either. It's all tension and bad blood, and now that the court is involved, that tension has real consequences. The judge even warned them that if they don't show up for their next court date in November, a warrant will be issued and whoever doesn't show up will go to jail for 30 days. That's how serious this is. The judge isn't even giving them a chance to play games with attendance. He wants them there, in person, to face whatever comes next. And let's talk about that court date, because it's a big one. On November 6th, all three of them, Trish, Ken, and Marquez, have to appear in court. If Marquez can prove that Ken was still living in the house, the judge could throw Trish in jail for violating the order. But if Marquez doesn't have proof and it turns out he lied or exaggerated, he could be the one going to jail for contempt instead. So, it's a lose-lose situation for someone. Honestly, the judge's attitude is refreshing. Too often, people ignore court orders like they're optional. But this judge isn't having it. He made it clear from the beginning that if anyone disrespects his ruling, they'll lose their freedom. He said it's not the court's job to babysit grown adults acting like children. That right there says it all. And the truth is, this drama didn't have to get to this point. But it did, because nobody seems to know when to stop. Marquez is out here trying to expose everyone, Trish is allegedly ignoring court orders, and Ken seems to be pretending like he doesn't know what's going on. But let's be real, Ken knows exactly what's happening. There's no way he didn't know he was supposed to move out. Even if Trish didn't tell him, the drama between all of them has been so public that he had to have seen it online. He's been dragged into it before. He's been part of the conversations. He's not clueless. So, if he stayed there, it's because he chose to. Maybe he thought the judge wouldn't find out. Maybe he thought Marquez wouldn't have the proof. But now that the motion for contempt has been filed, everything's out in the open. What makes it even crazier is that this whole thing has turned into a waiting game. Everyone's wondering who's going to end up in jail first. Will it be Trish for allegedly breaking the court order? Will it be Marquez if he can't back up his claims? Or will the judge somehow find both of them in contempt for playing games with the court? The way things are going, anything could happen. It's hard to ignore the irony, too. The judge even mentioned that he's tired of adults acting like children, running around on social media instead of handling things properly. He said the court isn't going to waste time scolding grown people who can't follow orders. That's probably the most real statement of the whole case. Because instead of focusing on moving on, all three of them are still caught up in chaos that should have ended months ago. And if we're honest, a lot of this could come down to ego. Nobody wants to look like the bad guy. Trish probably doesn't want to admit that she messed up. Marquez wants to prove he's right. Ken doesn't want to take responsibility. But at the end of the day, the court doesn't care about feelings or pride. It cares about facts, who broke the order and who didn't. If Marquez really has the proof he claims to have, he needs to keep that evidence safe. Back it up. Save it in multiple places. Because when they walk into court in November, the judge will expect him to show exactly what he claimed. No excuses. And if he can't, he could easily find himself spending almost 200 days behind bars, just like the judge warned. At this point, all eyes are on that upcoming hearing. Everyone wants to know what the judge is going to do. And honestly, this might be the moment where the truth finally comes out. Because once that evidence is presented, or not, there's no more guessing. The judge will decide, and whoever's in the wrong will have to face the consequences. The saddest part is that this isn't just about adults. There are kids involved, too. They're caught in the middle of all this back and forth, and that's what makes it even harder to watch. While the grown-ups are fighting, those children are the ones who end up seeing and hearing everything. That's why judges get so strict, to stop all the unnecessary drama from affecting innocent people. Still, it's hard not to wonder what's going through Trish's mind right now. If she really did let Ken stay after the order, was it worth it? Was it worth risking her freedom, her reputation, and her peace just to keep him around? Because if the judge decides she ignored his ruling, she's facing 185 days in jail, and that's a long time to sit and think about a bad decision. Meanwhile, Marquez probably feels confident. But he shouldn't get too comfortable either, because if he's wrong or exaggerated the situation, the judge could hit him just as hard. He's playing with fire too. This whole thing is like a ticking time bomb waiting to go off in that courtroom. And when it does, somebody's walking out in handcuffs. Whether it's Trish or Marquez, that's for the judge to decide. But one thing's for sure, this judge means business. He's already said he's not here for the nonsense. He's not going to let people ignore his orders and act like the court doesn't matter. The next few weeks are going to be intense. Everyone involved better get their facts straight, their evidence ready, and their stories lined up. Because come November, there won't be any more hiding behind social media posts or online rumors. It'll be time to face the truth in front of the court. And when that day comes, we'll finally find out who's been lying, who's been telling the truth, and who's going to jail for not following the rules. Because the judge has made it clear, play games with his court, and you're going to lose your freedom.